Maybe. Possibly.
Today's stars, yesterday's legends, forever our passion. This is the hard cam. Real talk, no filters, just wrestling.
This is the hard cam.
Welcome to the hard cam, bell to bell wrestling talk. How is everybody doing tonight? We are here on our new night of Sunday evening, rolling in, and it is hot as hell here in Virginia. But before I get into tonight's show and before I introduce Leapfrog, Drop Down, Drop Kick, Takeover, I want to go into something for him real quick. Yes, that's you. And you're looking mighty fine tonight. You're looking mighty sexy back there now in the old Canada days. But before we get into it, I want to introduce this man sitting across from me. Everybody knows that is Pretty Paul Rogers. And most of you, I hope, have probably now seen that Road Trip Wrestling is officially part of the Ringside Syndicate. Road Trip Wrestling, that's that man's brainchild. That is all Paul's brainchild. It is not a concept that I would have come up with. I wouldn't have thought about it. I just sit there and bitch about today's wrestling. That's all I do. And go back and relive the territory days. But I want to give credit where credit's due, because it's a concept that's really cool, and it's a damn good idea for people to go back and for us to be able to introduce, whether I'm with him or he's got a special guest with him, of wrestling all around the world. There's some, of course, indie promotions here in the States, but there's a lot of stuff. We watched a French show. I forgot the name of it. That's on me. That was really cool. I really enjoyed the show. And there's other stuff that we have watched. Some stuff we watched that we were like, ooh. And, but it gives everybody a chance to, there's the big two that they say. You've got All Elite Wrestling, you've got the WWE, and, that similar in certain ways, completely different in others. And, whether it's here in the States, France, Japan, Uganda, or wherever the road takes Paul and myself or somebody else next, Road Trip Wrestling gives people a chance to discover those companies. And what I really love about it is we're not telling you to stop watching WWE or AEW. What we're saying is there's a whole damn world of wrestling outside of those two. And maybe you'll find something great. Maybe we'll find something we absolutely hate. Knowing Paul, he's going to probably hate half of it anyway, but that's okay. And, but you're going to watch it. We're going to experience it. We're going to talk about it. And hopefully we're going to introduce you to some wrestling that you didn't even know existed. So Paul, this is your concept. Ringside Syndicate was never supposed to be just one show or one person's voice. The whole idea was for us to build something where different people can bring in ideas, different perspectives, professional wrestling. And you, my friend, did exactly that. So Paul, I want to say this publicly. I am very proud of what you created with RTW. I'm excited to be along for that ride, wherever it takes us. And I'll climb in the car and go wherever the hell you tell me to do. I genuinely believe you got something special there. So everybody watching, if you have not checked out Road Trip Wrestling yet, go watch it, give it a chance. You may discover your next favorite wrestling promotion, because Paul Rogers has definitely decided to take us on a road trip. And yesterday I did get it uploaded finally to our podcast platform network that's got the hard cam episodes on it. And so look for that. It's on, it's under Ringside Syndicate. You're not going to find it under the hard cam or Road Trip. You might be able to find it by searching that. I don't know how that stuff comes up, but it's under the Ringside Syndicate Network, both shows. And Paul, speaking of the man responsible for that whole damn thing, ladies and gentlemen, my partner in crime, the brain behind Road Trip Wrestling, and the man who somehow keeps agreeing to sit across from me every week, Paul Rogers.
Hello. That's all I'm giving you. That's it. That's all you need. Moving on.
You're not going to pump it up anymore, man. Come on, man. I just gave you the best introduction you have probably ever had.
And that's why we just leave it at that.
All right. You're right. I've said enough nice shit about you from one night, because we got a lot of wrestling to talk about this week. It was packed last week. And so we'll just jump right into it. Sami Zayn is the WWE Undisputed Champion. Oba Femi is the King of the Ring. Will Ospreay and Swerve Strickland, in my mind, thus far, delivered the match of the year. If there's something that's going to be match of the year, I have not watched everything Paul says before he jumps in and tells me that. I understand that. From I've seen, they delivered the match of the year, especially here in the States. Mercedes Moné makes history again by winning her second Owen Hart Cup, and has been compared to being Ric Flair at some points when she likes to go out in public. And Andrade turns on the Don Callis family. Ray Charles saw that coming. And Kenny Omega may have just made the biggest mistake of his AEW career by possibly becoming the second member of the Elite that won't be able to challenge for the title. as he faces MJF this upcoming week. But let's start with the obvious. Sami Zayn walked into a triple threat match with Cody and Gunther and walked out the undisputed WWE champion with a roll-up. Paul, give me your immediate reaction when Sami won.
Okay, so I won't give my immediate reaction. I'll give just an observation I've noticed since this has happened. I've noticed that no matter what criticism you have of the act or whatever, there has been this sort of like pre-criticism levied already by some people. You can see it in sort of the same podcast folks. There's already this I don't know how to phrase it, but there's this like love him or hate him, or it's like they already know it's not good, but they still have to sort of twist it to be this is a great decision. Because personally, I don't think Sami Zayn is world heavyweight champion material, and I don't think you can earn your way to a title. You know what I mean? Just by being in the company, I think something has to be there. Like, he's probably going to lose, and that's okay, fair. But there's a part of me that's like, yeah, but was this a good decision? Is this, you know what I mean? Is this, or was this done for a pop? Was this done for a surprise, and then we move on?
But did you really think it was a surprise?
I mean, I would say it was a surprise because as far as I know, there's been no like story of him headed towards that belt. Like, I haven't seen any like, oh man, Sami's it. Like, you know, I just wasn't aware of that kind of story. So if him just winning it, part of me was like, oh, okay. He won. Cool.
If it had been anywhere else, then I would have been probably shocked. But I don't know, like, you know how they talked about the Philly crowds with ECW and the New York crowds and this, that, and the other, blah, 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 blah. I don't know how the Saudi crowd is. I know it's a very religious part of the world. And with him going back and challenging for a world title the second time, I don't know how that crowd would have reacted if he would have lost again. So I can't really speak on that per se, but I will say that when they announced it for Saudi and with the backstory of him kind of the slow grind heel turn with him not seeing the heel turn, thinking he's right and everybody else is wrong. He won with a roll up. It wasn't a decisive win. It reminds me when I go back of Tommy Rich beating Harley Race and a week later, he dropped the title back to him. I don't remember how he beat Harley Race. But when Magnum TA got hurt, he was supposed to have a world title run and beat Ric Flair at Starrcade. Well, circumstances is what they made, prevented that from happening. So Ron Garvin beat Flair before Starrcade, and Flair got it back at Starrcade, but he beat Flair with a sunset flip off the top rope. It wasn't a decisive victory per se. We go back in recent history. They've made Gunther, Walter, to be this monster. Deservedly so, in my opinion. I think he's probably the best technical wrestler they have in what people define as technical wrestling. But he tapped out to Jey Uso, a lifelong tag team wrestler. I wasn't real thrilled with that one. The way that would, to me, that's a victory that takes you down in the card, or a loss that takes you down in the card. Cody got rolled up. It wasn't he tapped out, he passed out, or something like that. So, and the one good thing that came about it for me, I don't know if you saw it or not, but after the match, they showed Gunther and Nick Aldis having words in the back, and it got a little physical, and Nick has now been sent home pending an investigation. It looks like we're actually going to get Nick Aldis in the ring in WWE. And if anybody has seen him wrestle, he is very technically sound in the ring. And it looks like we're going to get a Gunther Nick Aldis match at SummerSlam, which I am all about. I would love to see that. But it looks like, and I'll get your take on this real quick, because, Sammy shit. Jay and Cody had a number one contenders match on SmackDown this past Friday. Cody won, and he gets a championship match this Monday, tomorrow night, in Chicago. Let me say that again, in Chicago. And the last time we saw CM Punk, he was talking to Cody about challenging him for the world title, or the WWE title, after he lost to Roman. We haven't seen CM Punk since. He's, everybody wants to talk about there's controversy backstage. There was it had been publicly said, not by the company, of course, but people inside the company and that know, the insiders that get those kind of scoops, that, CM Punk was scheduled for time off after WrestleMania due to, that he had been working his ass off since he had been back. You don't have to like the guy, but, this is, he cut it, if you look at some of the big stars, there's always half truths in promos sometimes. When he was going back and forth with Roman about the part-time stuff, he was talking about him being overseas and wrestling every night. And, from what I've read, that was a pretty true, accurate take of his time back. So he's set to return on Monday. So I'm looking at it. I don't think Sammy's going to keep that belt past tomorrow night. I think you're going to see Cody get it back and then go on to face Punk at SummerSlam. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. I'm like, pass. I like Cody. I've already done with, and Punk I feel like I've been done with years ago. So to me, it's like, you guys got anything interesting, anything new?
No, they don't.
Do you have any young person who might have won an opportunity to challenge for a title that has not yet had it? Has that happened? Did that happen?
Well, they did. On later in that show, Oba Femi won the King of the Ring, and he's supposed to get a title shot of his choice at SummerSlam. And when he was out there Monday night making his choice, Brock Lesnar come out and kicked him in the ding ding per se, and Oba, they're going to do Hell in a Cell with Brock Oba 3 at SummerSlam in Minnesota. The reports, rumors and innuendo before Brock did his little retirement dance at WrestleMania was that Brock was going to retire at SummerSlam. That had been a rumor since last year, but SummerSlam had already been set for Minnesota, which is, you don't know, that is where he was from, where he went to college, where he cut his teeth in amateur wrestling. So, we're getting Oba Brock 3 at WrestleMania, SummerSlam in Hell in a Cell. And that's just going to be two big behemoths beating the shit out of each other. I don't know, being inside the cell, how long that will actually go, but Oba's orders to Adam Pearce in the back was, because Pearce said, "Are you sure you want to do this? You've got a title opportunity." And he's like, "The titles will come and go. I need this." Pearce like, "All right, that's what you want." So Oba Femi, King in the Ring. But have you seen the controversy on that?
I mean, the only controversy I've seen is like, it's a rather ridiculous thing to do in like kayfabe. If you were Oba Femi, this is dumb. That's sort of the controversy I saw, is people sort of being like, how does this make sense? What's going on? I don't get it. Like, it's a bit odd as a story, but I don't know anything other than that.
Well, if you go back and you watch the Night of Champions, and I missed it. Like I said, I was only halfway paying attention to it. That's kind of where I've gotten with WWE products. I have it on because we do this, and I can listen and rewind whatever if I need to. But Oba, Jay had him in this, the chokehold that he beat Gunther with, and I know that, and WWE has glossed right over it, like they like to do a lot of things. They haven't mentioned it. They haven't, Jay hasn't mentioned it. He did on Twitter, and it never, I don't know if his tweet's been deleted since, but when he had Oba down on the mat, how the wrestlers will pat the mat trying to get up, get the crowd into it. Yeah. Well, Oba did it in such a way it looked like he tapped out. And, he just did the one, the quick, kind of like you tapping, and the crowd was like, well, what the hell just happened? He tapped out, but, he got up, and of course he won the match with his fall from grace, sit down powerbomb. And, it's right there. You can find it. It really looks like Oba Femi tapped out. Now, I know that wasn't the planned finish of the match. It's easy to overlook. It's not a 3 count that you just stop counting in the middle of, like with the Moxley Ray Phoenix match a few years ago. I would, you as a in-ring performer, I'll look at the clip and see what you think. I'm gonna see if I can find it for you in a minute.
Well, that sounds like exactly what happened to Violente in Best of Super Juniors. They, I want to say it was Kushida put him in like a hoverboard lock, that arm lock, and being a lucha, kind of like bang, bang, started to get the crowd going. And as soon as he went bang, bang, you could see him go, oh no. And Kushida immediately grabbed him and like rolled we're moving on. Like, nobody pay attention to the man behind the curtain. But it happens, and depending on the stakes of the match, it can be unfortunate, but
well, yeah, I mean, they're giving Oba this monster push, and there's no way they can, legit let him tap out to somebody like. I'm not down in Jey Uso. I mean, I think the Usos are, and this is not saying they're better than tag teams of the past, but in the past 12, 15 years are the best tag team WWE's had, over and beyond. I mean, the New Day was a little bit better in the ring than they were, but they also didn't get the monster push the Usos got. They got a monster push, but it was for a very small amount of time. So, but I'll be honest with you, I don't have a problem with the way that they did the Oba Brock thing, because it would be, to me, if you put Oba against Sami for the WWE title, you're going to have another version of the Brock Lesnar Kofi Kingston match, which they booked. I think Kofi lost in like 37 seconds or something like that with an F5. And so, I'm okay with them veering off Oba for the title. I get what you're saying as a kayfabe. It's a stupid decision because title opportunities don't come along very often. But I that's not just Sami Zayn versus Oba Femi is not a match I would want to see.
I mean, none of these are matches I want to see. So, but like, at least Oba in the picture kind of makes me go, okay, there's something, at least something different, some different character, something. But yeah, it's, I just look at that and go, well, why do I need to care about a person who doesn't even care about their own career? Like, I don't know. It just seems so baffling that between that and a couple other things between them, it's like, I don't see what you guys see in Oba. Like, well, I don't know.
I'm glad you said it, because that was my next question for you. With this big ass push they're giving Oba, do you see the next decade long main eventer in Oba Femi?
No, I'll say that fast right now. Like, I know this. Okay, we're all armchair warriors. I totally get that. If I'm gonna be anything, I'm gonna be self-aware. But when I saw that match with Brock and everyone was touting it as like the best match ever, and oh my god, it's war, and I saw it and I went,
no, wait a minute. Back up. Who the hell said it was the best match ever? Really, I'd be interested to see that.
It's not obvious hyperbole, but like they were touting it up as like, was that Mania Night 2 and then Clash at Italy? So I think I saw Clash at Italy, and I was like, you guys enjoyed this? Like, to me, it reeked of Brock Lesnar, who either can't work or refuses to, and Oba, who it appears that they're protecting, that they can't, like, he can't work. They're not putting him in positions where he's like working. You know what I mean? It felt so limited. It felt so like, well, he's only got two things that he can do. So, like, that's what it feels for Oba. And it's like, man, if you're going to be, even for a big guy, if you're going to be the guy, you, like, the bell rings and you have to deliver in the ring. You can't just be a pose. You can't just be a shadow on the arena. Like, you're going to have to put on these big matches. And from what I've seen of him, he's just not in anywhere near that.
And I will agree with you. The WrestleMania match, it wasn't because of what the match was going to be. And I hope you'll remember me talking about this. They did the match night 2 of WrestleMania as the first match, free on ESPN, trying to get viewers, which great. As even you take the title matches and everything else that was going on at WrestleMania, they pushed this match more than anything. They built this match up for people to be, wanting to see that match. Now I did enjoy the match at WrestleMania for what it was, not because it was a 5-star classic or anything else like that, with the whole thing at the end. And I told you when we talked about it, I'm like, if he didn't retire, he got me. He got me. That looked emotional on his part, on Heyman's part. And, Brock's not known for that kind of stuff. but the one in Clash in Italy, I told you before it happened that there was no way that they were bringing Brock back just to lose to him again. So now I had no interest in that match at all.
But like work, like
he can't work. He can't work. That's why I keep glossing over it. I mean,
but it's like I'm not
trying to cut you off.
But it's like that's where
go ahead.
No, but it's like that's where I'm at with those two. It's like why, especially now, like, okay, you saw a match that wasn't good. You saw another match that was arguably worse. And then you have this decision of the storyline where he's not going after the title. He wants to go after Brock. 3 strikes, dude. Like, you know what I mean? I feel like this isn't a push. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah, no,
make him look good in the ring. Make him beat the piss out of somebody. But it's like, no. We gotta be careful. Can't.
And then they kicked it off Night of Champions with Seth Rollins defeating Braun Breaker. And I was sitting there after the match. It was it was by far the best match on the card. Let's just say that. Mm-hmm. Now that's not saying it was a 5-star classic either. As far as what we had that night, Seth Rollins once again put on the best match of the night. And when it was over, I'm like, should he have won? Should Braun have taken that loss if we're trying to push Braun? But then on Monday, Seth comes out and pleads his case to Roman to get the world title shot at SummerSlam. Because if you go back in Roman's original 4-year run, they did wrestle each other one time, and it was it went into a no contest or a no DQ or something. It was not a clear finish. Neither one of them beat the other one. Seth went over all that and about how he, cashed in at Roman's expense at the WrestleMania main event, and all the stuff he had done to Roman. And, and Roman agreed. He was like, you're right. I don't want to beat you. I need to beat you. And, so they, with them moving Seth to a world title shot, which, he's going to lose. Yes. Then the right guy won the match to move into that next part of the storyline. You can't move a guy into a world title shot if he just took a loss. So, and in all in reality, when I watched the match, Braun made a strong showing. He kicked out about just every damn thing. It took and he was defiant in the loss. Seth that gave him the stomp. He kicked out, and Braun's got getting up and taking the straps down with one knee, and and he's trying to get back to his feet. Seth climbs to the top rope and comes off with a super stomp, and that pins him finally. But they in the loss, Braun looked. They gave Braun a strong showing because look good is a bad way to put some things. With what they do, they gave Braun a strong showing. So, your thoughts?
How is he even in the company? Braun's one of those guys where it's like Oba, where I don't see it.
Braun,
Seth, at least I can see, I can respect Seth. It's like this is gonna be a bad analogy where it's like, look, I'm not a big pop person. I don't listen to pop songs. I'm not really into that, but I at least know that Prince is a legit crazy musician and can melt faces with guitar solos. So Seth Rollins is, for this terrible analogy, is this Prince, where I'm not a big fan of the music that he plays, but I will know to take a step back and go, that guy can shred. 100% that guy can shred. I just don't, seeing it with Roman, I'm like, pass.
Oh, I mean, we've seen it a lot, whether it be tag team matches, him getting in the Cody Rhodes thing. And I mean, he even pointed that out. He's like, I was the one that sacrificed myself so Cody could beat you to end your reign of terror. But so that's what we're getting in SummerSlam. And real quick, I'll veer to the left a little bit. You brought up Prince. I don't know if you watch American football or not, but they can put whoever they want in the halftime show. Nothing. And I mean nothing. And I don't say that I'm 100% right, about anything else. Nothing will top Prince playing Purple Rain at the halftime show. And it started to rain while he was on stage. Nothing will touch that. You can try. You can put Bruno Mars. You can put Bad Bunny. If you want to get close, everybody says Elvis is still alive. You can go find him. If you can put him on stage, we might have something to compare it to. But Prince, they're just not going to touch that. Tiffany Stratton retained over Jade. You and I have talked about Jade. I'm not going to spend any time on that. She's the same person she was in AEW, just a bigger a bigger platform right now. That might not be the case in a couple of years. Trick Williams retained his United States title against Ricky Starks. Didn't really see the need for Starks to take another loss. He's taken more of those on the main roster than he's had wins. And now on Friday Night SmackDown, Carmelo Hayes has now challenged Trick Williams. And any NXT fans out there, you remember the Trick Willie gang, and Trick was the one to beat Carmelo for the NXT title and retain it. And then Carmelo came to the main roster. Any thoughts on either one of those?
Who are these people? I'm like vaguely aware of them, but it's like that. When you talk to people, you talk to people that haven't watched wrestling in a long time, and giant haystacks, Big Daddy, and you say, well, someone modern. They go, I don't know who that is. John Cena, I don't know who that is, but I know haystacks. I know haystacks Calhoun. I know Big Daddy. I feel like that now because every time I hear an NXT talent, I go, who are these people?
I haven't watched NXT in forever and a day. And I actually did watch a TNA episode, the first one that I'd watched since we covered the first episode on AMC the other night. And let's just say that, it was about the same as the first one we watched. But yeah, so like I said, Seth wins, Tiffany retains, Trick Williams retains, and now he's on to Carmelo Hayes. Trick Williams, I'll just say this, he's over. He's passable in the ring. He's over like crazy. He's very charismatic is what he is. His size and his charisma is what he's got going for him. Not to put any pressure on him. It kind of reminds me of a young Dwayne Johnson who was serviceable in the ring, but between that heel work when he came back being with the Nation and then turning into, the Rock says and all that stuff. If Trick can continue to grow, maybe you'll see the Rock, of course, is an icon. So I'm not saying he'll be that, but I think he can be something similar if he continues to grow the way he is. So, let's move on. Cause I think this, like I said, y'all have heard me bash a lot of shit that AEW's done over the years, but, Forbidden Door blew Night of Champions out of the fucking water. Let's just call a spade a spade. And, I said at the beginning of the show, and now I'm, if you got something you want me to see to compare it to, send it to me, please, because I have not seen anything comparable to what Ospreay and Swerve did last Sunday night. This year, let me be specific. This year,
like, okay, this is. Are we going to just start off with this? Because I'm going to say there's definitely going to be better matches than this because I wasn't necessarily too fond of this match. I've noticed that AEW big matches have a particular rhythm. And once you notice the rhythm, you can't unnotice the rhythm. And I feel like I might have gotten stuck in that. Maybe Ospreay and Swerve are more guilty of this. Some musicians are more guilty of certain tropes than other ones. Like everyone knocks on Pink Floyd for only having one sound, or AC/DC only has one sound, or whatever. I'm not saying these two lads have one sound. I'm just saying I've noticed this sort of pattern of move, and it's once you start practicing a music and you have to do all the what do they do, scales, and then you listen to music and you go, they're just doing scale.
Yeah, it
feels a bit like that on the metaphor side because as I was watching that, I was like, I'm noticing the pattern, I'm noticing the rhythm, and it's just playing like a rhythm. There's no, you're not taking the rhythm out from under me. Sometimes you set people up for a spot so the fans go, oh, I'm getting ready. And then you take the spot out from under them. So, you know what I mean? You have those kind of ups and downs. I just felt like this was another one of those, It's okay. I don't know. After a while, I'm just sort of eh.
All right. Well, I will tell you what hooked me into this.
Okay.
I'm sure that there will be matches that you can send me that will, just from a wrestling standpoint, outperform this. But anybody that's followed the history of Swerve and Ospreay, friendly people together, friends, enemies, wrestled friendly, whatever. Ospreay, we talked about it, when he came into the company, everybody expected Tony to hand him the title. And he was like, no, it's Swerve's time. Let him beat me real quick so he can move on so I can. Kudos to Ospreay for doing that. Cause again, Swerve had just won the title. But Ospreay's, they talked about it. Ospreay did not have a very flattering record against Swerve over the years. Swerve had beat him the majority of the time. And this was not only for that, but for Ospreay to go on and main event Wembley and, all in London for the title. And so even though that I was 99.999% sure before the pay-per-view ever started that there was no way Ospreay was losing this match because of that fact, that with all the emotion and everything going into it, the ups and downs, the spots and this, that, and the other, and the backstory and the front story behind it and in front of it, that's what all brought it all together for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. I guess I just didn't have that all click the same to me. It just, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It was just one of those things where there was one match on that show that I was like, this is what it feels like to be a wrestling fan, 10 on 10, but it was not the Will Swerve match. So
are you speaking of the three-way tag team match?
Oh yeah, the international. Oh my god, the Mystico Mascara Dorada, the Young Bucks, Shingo, and Bushi. It had all the best pieces of professional wrestling that I love. Like, I love those opening type of matches. I love those three-way tag matches. I love T10. I adore him as a wrestler. It's been a while now. Shingo's amazing. The Bucks are perfect for this match. Mystico might just be the one above all when it comes to professional wrestling. There's just something. CMML had its first non-sellout in about 4 or 5 months. So there, you know what I mean? Mystico, there's something about him and that once you see him and you see the theme song, you go, oh, this is what it feels like to see Hercules in real life. This is what it feels like to see Zeus. Like, he's the closest thing we have now to a wrestling god. He's just got that. Like, his theme song, I just think is one of the best at the moment in the way of presenting this sort of aura of this person. So I just went, man, everything about this match clicks for me. Yeah, like I could watch it again and praise it some more. That was the one that got me.
I agree with you. It was very entertaining. And the ups and downs, the back and forth. And again, I'll go back. Like I said, the story with Will and Ospreay is what roped me in. I've told you before, that's been my problem with AEW. I don't have an issue with table spots. I don't have an issue with thumbtack spots. That you do whatever you want to do. What I had a problem with was when they just send two random guys out there to do that shit to each other. And, you're putting your body on the line to kill somebody and there's just no backstory to it. That's always been my issue. I like if you go back and what the formula that made WCW so successful and allowed them to take over for a while, 83 weeks, Eric, I got it, 83 weeks. Mm-hmm. It was a formula to it. And we're not talking about the NWO. Yeah, the NWO brought the viewers in, Hall and Nash coming over. We get it. We know. But when they got their formula right, the cruiserweights they brought in from Mexico, from ECW, from London, places like that, they come out there and set the house on fire to start off those pay-per-views. And then when you got to the main event or double main event, whatever it might be, and you had Hogan versus Piper, Hogan versus Flair, whoever, the front of the wrestling wise, the front of the house blew the back of the house away. But the back of the house had that story where the NWA had spray painted Flair's hair. They had beat up Roddy Piper 10-on-1, the history between Piper and Hogan, the history between Piper and Flair. And then to me, you get excited when Bret Hart comes in because you're like, okay, here's a main event talent that can actually flip and wrestle. Because I love Ric Flair. I love Roddy Piper. I'll never deny what Hogan did for the business. He wasn't my favorite by any stretch, but when you get Piper and Flair in those days, they were way past their prime. Now, they still had their draw appeal because of who they were, and they could still do what made them famous, and that was talk. So they could still draw people in that way. So there was a story there, but your main event matches was not coming close to your opening card. But it was a good formula for what you had because the people got blown away with the moves and the matches, the pace of it, the stuff they had never seen before. And then you got your old guard coming in with, the reasons they hate each other. You know, tradition versus, you know, Hogan turning heel and turning his back on everybody. But, you know, I think AEW's got to, you know, they kind of play into that a little bit. Was where I was going with that. WCW, of course, did not have women's matches back in those days. Medusa was kind of reduced when she came into a, you know, a valet accompany somebody to the ring. Yeah, I know we're going to differ here, but on a scale of 1 to 10, no Meltzer stars, no 7-star Tokyo Dome bullshit. What 1 to 10? What do you give Ospreay and Swerve?
Oh, if we're doing, let's out of 5, honestly.
No. 1 to 10, 1 to 5, it don't matter. What, you know, no stars.
Honestly, if it's 1 to 5, I'd give it a 2.5.
Really?
It was like I've been using these analogies a lot, but it's like it felt like a Kiss concert. Like it felt like you went to see Guar. Like, yeah, it got bigger and louder and like a bass, but there's a part of me that was like, nah, it's still not my kind of tea. You know what I mean? Like, it's a genre thing. Like, I can go see Kiss, I can go see the Stones, and acknowledge that, you know, these are talented people and all that. But at the end of the day, I can turn around and go, yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of the Stones. You know?
Well, yeah, not to put her over, but maybe I'm just a little jaded. But you know, a lot of this card, you know, to me, and this is what I don't like about professional wrestling today. And one of the things that I've enjoyed about watching road trip wrestling and going on those trips with you, like when we watched the French show, I had no idea who anybody was and who was going to win. I couldn't sit there and watch that with you and go, yeah, X person's going to win this match, and here's why.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I miss about, you know, being able to watch stuff. Because, I mean, nobody saw Ronnie Garvin beating Ric Flair for the world title. Ronnie Garvin was a great mid-carder. You know, he'd win some, he'd lose some, U.S. tag title run, TV champion run, Mid-Atlantic champion run. But they had to pivot because of Magnum's injury. But nobody saw that coming. Night of Champions. Was I 100% sure Sami was going to win? No, but because of where it was and being a triple threat match, I was not shocked. And I just said, you know what? People can shit on it all they want. I agree with you. He's not a world champion. You don't get a world title just because you deserve it, or you think you deserve it because you work hard, you do what the company says. But, you know, good for him. I mean, you know, whether we like it or not, you know, like he said on TV, I know it was a promo, but he'll always go down as, no matter how long he holds a title, he'll be in the history books as a WWE champion. And, you know, Mercedes, I was 98% sure she was going to win with the Maya World story and her family tragedy. I could see Tony letting her win it, but I didn't. They gave her a good showing, and they let her look really good, kicking out of the moneymaker and getting out of the, I forgot what she done, the bank statement, whatever she calls it now. Letting her get out of that a couple of times before she finally had to tap out. Andrade turning on Don Callis and MJF. Like I said at the beginning, Ray Charles saw that one coming. Just like they saw Mark, you know, to me, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, stop me anytime. But Mark Briscoe winning the cage match so he could get a shot at MJF this past Wednesday, to which he lost the match. Mark Briscoe, 98% sure Max was going to retain, but because Sami won the title, I could see Tony saying, you know, giving Mark a small run like he did Darby Allin, but it didn't, you know. And then I
think they're just trying to keep Mark as the sort of gatekeeper of the upper card, like a Dolph Ziggler, if you will. Like if you have someone that's coming up the card, well, let's put you with Mark. Oh, what's a good example? X-Pac way back in the day. I know they got X-Pac heat, but this is why they did it. Oh, you got a new person? Well, we know X-Pac's good, so we'll put you with X-Pac because he's good with new people. You know what I mean? We can... Yeah. That kind of stuff, but yeah.
Do you think it was a good idea letting Mercedes win 2 in a row for the Owen Hart Cup?
I mean, sure, why not? I don't see too many girls that I would put at the top of the list for a tournament win. So Mercedes is definitely not the worst one to have. You know, I wouldn't argue against her getting a couple tournament wins in the long run, you know what I mean? So if she's doing successful in this, it's like, yeah, it would make sense.
Well, and you also, like, I don't know if she'll still have the title ball in Wembley, but you see in AEW, not every week, of course, but you see a lot more babyface versus babyface match than you do heel versus heel. And But if
And
Tekla still
that's for a reason, but that's a wrestling reason. Yeah.
right, yeah. But if Tekla maintains the title between now and All In, you're going to get two heels going against each other. How do you feel about that?
It just depends on where they are on the kind of heel spectrum, and they just play off of that. How do I phrase this? I'm very used to a 5-faction spectrum. So you'll have your ultra baby face, your kind of baby face, you're in the middle, sort of bad guy, super bad guy. So depending on who you're fighting, as long as you're not fighting the same faction mate, you always have this sort of level between you in that kayfabe. So whoever's more the heel is just the immediate heel. Whoever's got more, I would say whoever's got more wrestling in them would turn more the baby face, because people like wrestling. They want to see wrestling, and heels shut that down. So it would work as a heel versus heel match. You just have to have someone slowly shift over to a bit of a fighting spirit mode to have people go, well, we like the people who have fighting spirit, so we're going to, get behind this person.
And to me, that's got to be Mercedes. Tekla, I just don't think would come across as a good baby face. But this is my thing. Going, like I said, I hate being able to predict stuff, but in my opinion, if you don't, like we've talked about this before, Mercedes, 2 big losses. Yes, she lost the TNT title to Willow when she went on that downslide of losing all her belts, but take that out of the equation. The 2 matches she's lost in AEW were both world title shots. So to me, if you let her go to All In and not win the AEW Women's Championship, you wasted a tournament win if you're going to make her lose for a third time.
Unless that's the bit you're working on. So a good example is like Zack Sabre Jr. is known as a tournament fighter. He's notorious for it. He's always in the G1. Oh, there's always going to be, and I like some people like that, but you can turn that into they're great in the tournament, but they choke at the finals. They choke at the end, and there's a story.
Oh, there's absolutely a story there. That could be made a story. Absolutely.
Because how many sports teams have made it to the finals and never, Toronto Maple Leafs, I'm not saying they made it to the finals, but they're one of those hockey teams where it's like, and that's a sports story that everyone just sort of gets.
Well,
puts in the work, but she slips at the bottom.
Mark Briscoe pinned MJF in that cage match, which I figured he would, after Andrade's turn. We've talked about it, and we both agree that Briscoe, you can put him anywhere you want on the card, and he's still going to be good at it. He'll make it work. Everybody loves Mark Briscoe. Now, we know he lost Wednesday night, and that's whatever. But do you think he could ever legitimately be the face of AEW?
No, he's not. He's AEW's Toru Yano. You're going to be high up on the card. You're going to get some big wins. You might get a chance at the title, but that's like, But you could take 1 million losses and you could take a loss from Mark Briscoe, and it's not going to hurt you. No one ever lost to Yano and went, oh man, that's me down the card. They went, you got me again. You know what I mean? So with Briscoe, it's just like he can't be the face, because that's just not how wrestling works. But he can be like the Arn Anderson to the Ric Flair, if you will. He can be the gatekeeper to the upper card. Well, Kyle Fletcher is the face of the company. You know what I mean? Like, there's someone better suited traditionally, but Mark's better. He's better in a kind of secondary role. In the Spock role, if you will.
Yeah, right now, leading into All In, I don't think it would be the right time. I agree with you. I do not think he can be the face of AEW. But if the timing, the perfect storm happened, I can see Mark getting a Cactus Jack Mankind type of 2-month long title run, just for a feel good story. Because it was Mrs. Foley's baby boy. And him being able to drop down on his knees and look up and tell his brother he did it.
So devil's advocate here. The devil's advocate. Remember when they gave the belt to Ray out of sympathy and it was not great?
Oh, no, I agree.
I think if you give the belt to Mark, you're doing it out of sympathy because, again, he's not the guy the way that, Sami Zayn's not the guy. So,
well, it's like I told you.
I
mean, you could insert Mark Briscoe into this scenario, but like I told you, I didn't have an issue with Darby winning the title. It was just them letting him squash MJF. That's the problem I had, and it was kind of like my problem with Wardlow. I didn't mind Wardlow squashing MJF, but then that's when I've said it 1,000 times. That's when they when you plan on him going, all right, we're going to let him go out and squash this guy that we're pushing to the moon. You better you put that rocket on the back of him and have it ready to go. And after he squashed MJF, it just kind of flopped. We saw him with, the FTR thing. And then we saw him with, that brief thing with Adam Cole's devil thing, blah, 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 blah. I just don't think they follow up real well with certain things. But, you speak of Zack Sabre Jr., that he's taken his second loss at Forbidden Door. I don't, that doesn't hurt him overseas, of course. Then again, it might. I don't know. I'm not that familiar with over there. But
I don't. This loss doesn't. A loss to Kenny Omega, Zack Sabre losing to Kenny Omega is not. It's one of those things where we just move on. Like I don't think this hurts. That'd be like saying, "Oh, Andre got beat by Harley Race." Man, Andre got buried, brother. No, Zack Sabre.
Oh, I didn't say he got buried. It's just
no, I know, but some people have that sort of presentation. It's like, no, he's still one of the greatest alive today. Like him losing a couple in AEW doesn't mean anything to his reputation in any way. Like he's lost to worse.
Well, to me, it'd just be like, man, come on now. I keep coming over here all this way for you to advertise me on a pay-per-view. Damn, you could let me win one. But anyway, you speak of Kenny. He defeats MJF shit. Defeats Zack Sabre. Then he comes out after they're beating up Andrade. He helps Andrade on Wednesday, talking about MJF. MJF comes out, tells him no, he's not going to give him a title shot. And then he comes back. He said, well, you know what? I will under one condition. If you lose, you can never challenge for this title again like your buddy Hangman. They him and haw about it all night long. You see Kenny in the back talking to the Bucks, doing some soul searching. And of course, he comes out and he says he's going to take the offer, which to me says they set all this up so you can get Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay at Wembley. To give, I don't know if you want to say give somebody that, Kenny's not Kenny from New Japan, but, he is still Kenny Omega to a point, and he's somebody that can keep up with the style of match that Will Ospreay is good at versus MJF being more of your old school heel and running away and doing stuff. So you'll be able to see a lot more what you saw with Swerve and Ospreay versus what you could see with MJF and Ospreay, in my opinion.
I think what they're doing now, this is just a hunch. I think they don't trust the American audience to know that Kenny Omega is like in dad form now. Like he's not, you know what I mean? Like he'll be like Ryusuke Taguchi where he's in dad form. He'll have a couple big matches because they still remember him as big match Taguchi, and he'll put on a couple good displays. But it's like, I think they're kind of this, if they follow through on this the way I think they are, I think this is going to be them, Mr. Anderson or whatever. Remember The Simpsons? He's stomping the foot of saying Kenny's done. Kenny's not retired, but he's in dad mode now. He's not going to challenge for the title because he's in dad mode now. He might challenge for the tag belts with someone else with a younger talent, but this might be them being a little bit literal on the nose, saying Kenny's time is over. Main event Kenny is no more. Because watching that Zack match, there was a couple little things I saw watching it and went, yeah, Kenny's not Kenny anymore. He didn't do the you can't escape, and he's always done that. And it's the like fireman's carry, roll over, jump. He hasn't been able to do that in a couple of years. So I noticed that he's switching out a couple of his moves to like simplify. You know what I mean? I just noticed as he's working, I was like, yeah, this is definitely Kenny, dad Kenny now. So yeah, well, hopefully this is them just saying down the card.
Yeah, the story with this one though is also he hasn't beaten Max in AEW, and the last time they fought, Max is Max. I mean, He does the old school heel stuff. He's a chicken shit. He runs around, does what he needs to do. And, he has been the only person in the AEW to kick out of the one-winged angel that he pointed out Wednesday night. Now, of course, if you watch it, it wasn't an Ospreay Swerve, hit my finisher, go directly for the cover. It was Kenny hit the one-winged angel, but he was selling real good with the stuff he had been through. And it took him a few to get over there to MJF. And by the time he got over there, MJF was able to kick out. So I'll be honest with you. To me, I completely get what you're saying, and you could be 100% right. It's a 50-50 shot for me because I look at it this way. I think it would be a better, more entertaining match as far as the aerial stuff goes and yada, yada, yada with Kenny Omega and all in. But I think the victory and the crowd response would be a lot better if it was Max that he beat, not Kenny Omega.
Yeah, and I still have my doubts that Kenny Omega can do the big match that, he's sort of known for. I think he there might be a bit of limitation. So I think that's why they put that match kind of earlier in the show. But anyway, yeah, MJF and Ospreay are going to be that's the better match because you can say, look at these two young talent. Look at these two people who are making their path now. Yeah, Will's made his path already. He was famous before he got there. He was one of the best before he got there. But MJF is forming his path and getting that lineage of, okay, arguably he, because, okay, having the IWGP championships in your resume has a lot in that kind of uppins. So Max not having those titles in that history to me, you know what I mean? It's just a different trajectory. But you have this story of two young talent that are hungry and they're genre defining for different reasons and blah, blah, blah. So I think that's the better match to promote, youth versus youth.
And I agree with you. The only thing is with me is Tony Khan's booking. It's so sporadic. Is he thinking, people giving people like me who just think it's obvious that Kenny Omega is going to win the world title to go on to, we'll take Wembley out of the equation. That way, because he's not going to not make Kenny be able to challenge for the world title again. And, and is he thinking, everybody calls him a mark for the sickos, this, that, and the other. And I know MJF can deliver those type of matches. I agree with you. And like I said, I think the crowd response and the victory itself would be bigger coming over MJF with the heel he is. But the way Tony likes to book those fantasy matches. And, to my knowledge, I'm sure Ospreay and Omega have wrestled before. I just can't think of it off the top of my head. But, you never know how Tony's mind is working for some of these dream matches he likes to put together. So it's a 50-50 shot for me. But right now, I already know your answer, but I want to ask right now, if it was up to you, Pretty Paul Rogers, who you putting the AEW title on right now?
I would keep it on MJF.
And
I'm not.
That's what I would do.
Darby was fun, but I'm a big fan of a large defense count. Let MJF hold this for a year and a half. Let him go V12. Let him be cocky on that and say, I've had, 12, 15 successful defenses. Let it, let it build. And then you can have not specifically this person, but an example of this person. Maybe Kevin Knight wins it and everyone goes, oh, make it someone a little bit more deserved. I just picked Kevin Knight because this is a young person that if they beat an MJF after this title reign, that would be a skyrocket of a win. So that's where I would sort of do it. Let's go a little bit more old school and how you hold on to the belt and just Max, that's yours for a year.
I agree. And before I'm just quick answer, do you see Andrade getting the world title run?
Not in America.
Yeah, me either. All right. No fencing, no diplomatic answer. We watched Night of Champions. We watched Forbidden Door. Which company had the better week?
Apparently Dave Meltzer is saying that WWE by far had a better week because even by AEW standards, Forbidden Door did not do very well in pay-per-view buys. So Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, to be fair, and I 99.99% of the time disagree with Meltzer, and I will disagree with him here. Does WWE get pay-per-view buys? No, they don't. People are watching it on Netflix or ESPN Plus, which they might have a subscription for simply the WWE, or, with ESPN Plus, you're getting all the other stuff with games and this, that, and the other. Do they simply watch it because they already had it? The Netflix is international. Do you get the WWE stuff on ESPN, or do you get it on Netflix in Canada? Because they see it's international on Netflix.
I have no idea. I think it's Netflix.
Okay.
But
I
get what you're saying, but a bad pay-per-view sell is still a bad pay-per-view sell. Like TNA, if they only get 75,000 buys, you're not going to hear someone go, well, the WWE, but AEW does pay-per-views. They did not sell the amount of pay-per-views they were looking for. These big companies cost money. So if the buy rate of Forbidden Door starts going down, that'll have consequences, because I saw fair observations on Reddit, and they say, well, the Forbidden Door is done. The guy who coined it is retired. A lot of the New Japan people who come over are not necessarily the bigger names. They don't win. There's no stories. There's no, you know what I mean? There's no drama. And most of the AEW episodes have a CMML person or a startup person, or, you know what I mean? So the Ring of Honor titles. So yeah, we can talk about WWE existing and all that, but in the end of the day, AEW might have to go, has Forbidden Door sort of run its course as a spotlight pay-per-view? Because this was not a spotlight pay-per-view. This was an AEW pay-per-view.
It was. And if they could recreate what they did with the first one, then Forbidden Door would be still one of their premier pay-per-views, in my opinion. But like you said, we're getting CMLL, we're getting Stardom on every AEW episode, at least one talent from one, or if not both. And no, I mean, and I've told you before, if I was New Japan, I'd be afraid to send my stars over there. Be like, yeah, every time we send somebody over, you sign them, you snatch them up and take them away. So no, I agree. But I will say that, just from pure wrestling standpoint of what interests me, AEW to me had the better week, because the pay-per-view, whether it had more buys or not, I am so. Cody Rhodes coming in from AEW when he first came back, it gained my attention. It was interesting because he was a founder of AEW. He was a low mid card in WWE when he left. Kind of like Drew McIntyre when he left. They were both down here. They went out and made their name elsewhere, came back to big fanfare. Drew, of course, started back in NXT and then made his way up, but nor here nor there. Cody, I think has been stale for a long time. It's just the same old shit with his matches. Start off hot, get beat up, work from behind, hit a crossroads, kick out, hit another crossroads. We got to finish. For me, just match quality for me, what I enjoyed watching, I'm giving it to AEW. Because whether you think Swerve and Ospreay was the match of the year or not, it was by far head and shoulders above anything that Night of Champions produced. So yeah. One more. In your estimation, I wrote these down. Who had the biggest single career-changing week? Was it Sami, Oba, Ospreay, Mercedes, or Mark Briscoe? Pick one.
Oh my God. That's a tough one. I'm going to say Oba in a bad way. I don't know. There's something about everything that's going on. I just look at it and go, I don't understand what you guys are doing to this guy. You're making him a character look silly. I understand it's all production stuff. Like, you're only getting one match out of Brock, blah, 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 blah. But to me, it's just like, what? I thought you're supposed to be gaining my interest, not boring me even more.
No, I hear what you're saying. The only thing that I agree with on the whole spectrum of that stuff was when Oba looked at Adam Pearce and said, the titles will always be here. So there's definitely a title run in his future. I was wondering how they were going to do it, because rumor and innuendo online has the fact that they want to build to Oba and Roman, but they didn't want to do it yet. So that might be a WrestleMania match that we get in 27. And, for all intents and purposes, I mean, this, and it might not be. He might announce it before then. If that's going to be the case, I hope he does. That it's Brock Lesnar's final match. Give him his curtain call in Hell in a Cell. Give Oba his victory back, so that it's 2-1. He retires the Beast. And at the end of the match, when they beat the shit out of each other, like I said, the reason I want Brock to announce it beforehand, just say, you know what, win, lose, or draw, this is it. Have him get up, have him shake hands, and then let Brock take his final bow and walk away. No matter how good or how bad the match is. And so and like I said, regardless of what they're doing to him now, he'll get at least one title run to see what he can do with it. What he does between now and when they put him against Roman will depend on whether he gets that title from Roman or not. But I will say Sami Zayn, because Sami Zayn made a great point, and I mentioned it earlier. No matter how long he holds the title, he'll go down in the history books as WWE champion, whether you agree or disagree with the belt being put on him, just kind of like with Mick Foley. He went down as a 3-time WWE champion. Doesn't matter if you liked it on him or not. He's infamous or famous, however you want to look at it, for the, Raw being pre-taped when he won the belt the first time. And Tony Schiavone's famous line that came from Eric Bischoff in the headset of, oh, that guy, Mick Foley, that used to be here as Cactus Jack, won their world title. That'll put some butts in the seats. Well, everybody changed fucking channel, so it did something. But yeah, like I said, Sami Zayn, whether he loses it tomorrow night to Cody Rhodes, which seems to be how it's going to look, so he can face CM Punk at SummerSlam, he's still a WWE champion. So that's our thoughts on that one. So, but what a week. I mean, Sami Zayn, he won the belt. Oba Femi, we may or may not, depending on, Paul said his thoughts on it. We may or may not be looking at the future of WWE. I don't think so. I don't think that gimmick can last, but for so long, and nothing against him. And please, I don't want anybody to take this the wrong way. It's just the state fans. They don't cling on to people that do not talk plain English. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. Gunther would have been a great talent in the 80s, but he would have been with a Bobby Heenan or a Paul Jones or, pick one. And he would have been a guy that might have got the U.S. title or the Intercontinental title. He would have never reached world title status because he's a foreigner. And that's just the way wrestling has always been. Right, wrong, or indifferent.
American wrestling.
American wrestling. I thought I'd preface that before. It's okay. But, Mark Briscoe got his shot. Mercedes makes history. She's getting another shot. Ospreay punching his ticket to All In, which I'm looking forward to see, even though I think it's very predictable. And again, I've talked about it before. I hate predictability. If Scott Hall would have, if we'd have known 2 weeks prior that Scott Hall was going to show up on Nitro to cut that promo of, you all know who I am, but you don't know why I'm here. Would it have done as much as it did? No, it wouldn't have. People have been like, oh, that's what he's doing. All right. But, Night of Champions, Forbidden Door. It's up to you which show won the week. Any final thoughts there, Paul?
Okay, so I noticed that Apollo Crews was in TNA. Was he let go of WWE, or is this an excursion allowed by WWE?
He was on one of the last round of cuts of the one before that.
Okay, so he was at
and he is now Uha Nation, whatever the hell that.
Yeah,
means.
well that was his original name, because I was curious if this was an excursion. I have a sad thing. Tomoyaka Hanma is retiring. He's been wrestling since like 2001, something like that. So it's sad seeing these guys that are in their 50s retiring. It's all seeming to happen now. And speaking of older guys, before we head out, what do you think of Sheamus saying to the WWE about his contract?
I don't blame him. I mean, I like Sheamus. He's been very poorly used in the past, 5 years? They weren't, I enjoyed the Bar. I know a lot of people didn't like that tag team, but I thought him and Cesaro or Claudio, whatever you want to call him, I thought they made a great tag team. Bruising tag team, kind of a, to me, a Road Warrior style tag team, but they could actually wrestle. Big guys that hit hard, and they bring him back to every time they brought him back. I mean, they brought him back in You saw him get jobbed out to Rusev, which, Rusev just came back. I don't really have such an issue with that, except after that, Rusev's been jobbed out to everybody. So, no, I don't blame him.
So is this a Sheamus retires, or is this in 2 months after he's retired, or whatever, 90 days after he's going to be GHC World Heavyweight Champion? Like, Sheamus is a person that, like the New Day, can go anywhere. Actually, I would say Sheamus has more opportunities than the New Day, given his size and given his age and connections. It's like he goes to Noah in a heartbeat.
Well, that, and I can completely see him going to AEW. I mean, just because, him and Cesaro, Claudio are friends. He would, you could feud them, you could put them back together. There's, AEW doesn't have a very demanding schedule. So it's going to be depending on what he wants to do. I mean, I know he was out hurt for a while, kind of like Randy was, he was out for a lot longer than people had anticipated him to be. So I guess it's going to, how his bank account looks, how his body feels, and
I
what
was going to say, apparently
he's
got, he's nursing a real bad neck injury, like a really, really bad one. So this might be him kind of going, my neck and the contract, and you know what I mean? So hopefully he's healthy. If that's the case, he can go anywhere he wants. But if there's an issue, he can retire happy and go hang out with Jim Duggan for all I care.
Well, if he's, that's the thing with, whether it's, MLW, GCW, a 1 or 2 time shot in Japan, coming in for a match or two in AEW. I mean, you said it best. He can do whatever he wants to do. And, Tony seems to be a lot more willing to just bring people in for here and there to let him do whatever. So, good luck to him, whatever he decides to do. If he's going to retire, then, happy retirement. And, I don't think he will. I think he'll, if he's, nursing a neck injury, that when it's good to go and his doctor say, hey, you can go do whatever you want to do. We'll see him again. Like we've talked about, it's so hard to, you've seen a couple that walked away and they were ready to walk away and didn't have an issue with it, but the majority of them can't do that. I mean, they're not all to the extreme that Ric Flair is to this day. But that's why, everybody makes the joke of retirement's never final in wrestling, because it's in their blood. They can't stay out of the ring.
And he's not a guy, he's notorious for having more pro wrestling style than a sports entertainment style. So a lot of people see that as being a bit more easier on the body because it's simplified. Like, I don't have to take blue thunder bombs. I'm 6'4", 300 pounds. What are you talking about? You know what I mean? You're not doing all these moves. You're not doing Hurricane Run as the Bruiser Brody is like the point I'm trying to make. So with his size and his style, yeah, he would fit perfectly in with a tag league run in New Japan or Noah. Yeah, he could show up. Actually, I would love to see him do the world circuit, because France would eat him up, Germany would eat him up, Britain would eat him up, and I think he would just be paid hand over fist to show up at some of these locations.
Yeah, well, to your point, and then we'll get out of here. They all, Paul White, I've heard him talk several times about, Hogan brought him in. He met him at a basketball fundraiser that Shaquille O'Neal was doing, and I saw how big he was and brought him in. And he said that people would ask him about different stuff, and the worst he got talked to backstage. He goes, believe it or not, he goes, it was Hulk. He goes, Hulk had been trying to tell me to do this and do that, not to do this, not to do that, not to let people do this to me, not to let people do that to me. And he said it wasn't because he wanted me to say, hey, I'm better than you. He goes, I was 7'4", almost 500 pounds. He goes, but my young ass is looking at it. I'm 7'4", 460 pounds. Watch me fly off the top rope. And he goes, I got from back one night and I'd done something Hulk told me not to do. It was one of those moves. He goes, I don't remember which one I did. He goes, but he met me at the curtain, told me he was fucking tired of trying to tell me to protect myself and to work like a giant before he kicked my giant ass. He goes, and I kept trying to he goes, I was young. In my mind, I'm like, what the hell does he mean work like a giant? I'm out there. I am a giant. And he goes, the longer he was in there and he was slowing it down and not letting people do certain things to him. And then when he squashed Ric Flair to become champion, he said, that's when it was starting to click what Hulk was talking about. Go out there and act like a giant. You're not Rey Mysterio. You're not, and Rey Mysterio can't do this to you because he's 5'3", 145 pounds. You are 7 foot, whatever, 460. So, yeah, I mean, that's exactly to your point. There's certain things by certain people shouldn't be done to other ones. And on the TNA note, and we'll get out of here, Dolph Ziggler and Nick Nemeth is the new world champion, defeating Mike Santana at Slammiversary. So he is now a 2-time TNA world champion, and rumors have it that Mike Santana is headed to the WWE. If that's what he wants to do, good luck to you, sir. I am not sure that in a position like that. Now, I know Mike Santana had a run in AEW with the Jericho Inner Circle, and he, with the tag team of him and Ortiz, but him wanting to get out and be Mike Santana and a singles wrestler, I know that's everybody's dream to go be a world champion. I don't know. I don't have a lot of confidence in WWE with what they're doing with certain people right now. It's not just certain people, it's a lot of people. But if that's what he wants to do, if he wants to have that dream like you and I have talked about, that people want that WrestleMania moment, whatever it might be, whether it be a Young Buck, a Kenny Omega, and they're getting old enough now, maybe that's out of their system, but some of these other guys are still clamor for that WrestleMania moment. So, and I'm hoping AEW stays around long enough that, it can be I want a WrestleMania or an All In moment, to where, they can be happy with either one. That's my, you're not going to like everything either company does, and that's fine. But I think it's great for the business that you have at least two big, because, TNA didn't have that kind of money to dish out that the two big ones do. So as long as you got at least two big companies out there to have something alternative to watch, so there's a good difference between the two of them, in my opinion. So any final thoughts here on what we talked about this week?
No, it's a pretty normal American wrestling cards.
Yeah, and probably what we'll have again next week. So tell us where the road trip's taking us next. Where are we going?
I gotta double check, because I believe next time in 10 days we are going to be in Professional Wrestling Noah, but I have to double check the release schedule, because that's the point we're at now.
Well, drop in the comments, like the video, subscribe to the Ringside Syndicate. Make sure you follow us everywhere at Ringside Syndicate, all on social media. And both the Hard Cam and Road Trip Wrestling available where podcasts are available. That's Amazon Music, that's iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube Podcast. Our YouTube channel is at Ringside Syndicate. And, if you don't have anything else, for Paul, I'm Jason. This has been the Hard Cam, and we'll see you next time.
Good night, and thank you for watching.